Hi, my name is Tamisha Thomas, and this interview is being recorded and may be placed in the MDC archives. Do I have your consent for this interview to be recorded?
Yes, you do.
Okay, so to start off with, what is your name, your age, ethnicity, what city do you live in, and where were you born?
My name is Naomi Exama. I'm 18 years old. I was born in Miami and I live in Miami. I'm also Haitian American.
Okay, so since it's already been a year, tell me about your experience during the pandemic.
My experience during the pandemic was kind of bad, as everybody's, I guess, was. The pandemic was very long and hard. Considering the fact that I'm a senior in high school, I spent the entire year basically at home. I haven't seen any of my friends. I don't know if I'm going to have an in-person graduation or prom or anything of the sort. I've had members of my family pass away, and things have just generally been hard for me.
Okay, sorry about that. But throughout this experience, have you or any of your family members had any COVID scares? If so, what did you guys do about it?
My brother and his wife actually got COVID, and in order to cure themselves, they took various herbal remedies, teas, and they self-quarantined in their home.
Okay, so to start off this interview, with the creation and distribution of the vaccine, do you think there's equal access to all the countries, and how could easy access be achieved?
I don't believe at all that there is equal access to vaccines. And part of the issue is because the outbreak of COVID just came pretty unexpectedly. And so the issue came from the rush that the countries had to research and create a vaccine. I think to solve this issue, I think getting countries to come together to create a concrete plan on how to access excess vaccines can be distributed where it's needed most. And World Health Organization is apparently working on this with other public health organizations. So that's great, a great start.
Okay, so there's been a lot of race issues, but it has not been sensitized in the recent days with the pandemic hitting the deadline. What connection do you see between the way the pandemic has affected people of color and the justice movement based on race?
In the beginning of the pandemic, the race issues were being exposed, especially after the death of George Floyd in the summer. The media plays a huge role on news coverage, and as time progressed, headlines regarding Black Lives Matter, the movement, have been faded behind the pandemic as things were started getting to a crunch line, and they resurfaced only when social media was brought more attention to it.
Okay. So there has been a difference in the view of different races globally, and there is really no solution to solve the racial difference. So in your own opinion, do you think that this pandemic has brought the people of different races together, or has it caused a greater drift?
Um, this is not really a hard yes or no question, because there's a lot of division between the Black community and the Asian American community. The rise of hatred against Asians and the rise of white supremacy on the Capitol has just been, it's been almost like a two sides coming together and fighting when we really should be united. However, there has been a formation of unity as these two communities come together to stand against social issues.
Okay. So how do you think the pandemic will affect the country's political affairs in recent times and in the future?
The pandemic in recent times, as we have a new president and vice president, the pandemic has affected all of that recently. Plans, President Biden's plans have for his presidency have had to include the pandemic. And I feel as though in the future, the nation will have the pandemic as a top priority just in case it happens again. And there will be an outline in the future on how to handle the outbreak and economic resources and how to create programs for communities that can be drastically impacted from the pandemic.
Okay, so now women have been excluded in some of the political meetings that have been held to discuss the pandemic. Do you think that this has played a role in not finding responses to the crisis caused by the pandemic?
I do, because it plays a significant role because there is a lost perspective. In any sort of environment where decisions need to be made, there needs to be diversity to get the best results when coming to brainstorm for ideas. And so, yes, when women are not included into these discussions, there's a loss of perspective and things get done slower.
Okay, so in the face of the pandemic, do you think it was a good idea for people to be laid off from their jobs, and why is it your answer?
Um, I think it was neither good or bad because some businesses did not have capital to maintain all of their employees, and that's why unemployment benefits were the next best thing. We need accessible and definite resources to help sustain businesses through a time like this.
Okay, so people have opted to change their jobs after the pandemic crisis. How effective do you see this decision?
Um, I'm not sure. Uh, Only the individuals making the decision would be able to know what direction their industry may be headed post-pandemic. If there isn't going to be a drastic change, then obviously it's not going to be effective. But people are uncertain of their futures and are trying to adjust to their lifestyles appropriately.
Okay, that's all for today. Thank you so much for allowing me to interview you today, and I hope you have a wonderful day.
Thank you. You're welcome. Thank you for having me. It was a pleasure. Goodbye.
Goodbye.